Agud v'raboisai. Dirishmasi mimurazi usmas Mordechai. Omerav. Chatos chelev sheshachta l'shem chatas dam. Raboisai, a person, he ate chelev b'shoigeg, so he brings a chatos, and the kohen messed up and said that it should be a chatas dam. What is that called? Shinui? Shinui kodesh. L'shem chatas avodah zarah sheira. So if he messes up the type of chatos it is, it's kosher. He goes from chelev to dam, chelev to avodah zarah, kosher. However, l'shem chatas nazir, l'shem chatas mitzorah psula. This is also a different type of chatos, but it's so different that it's like changing it to another type of carbon. A chatas nazir and a chatas mitzorah, they didn't sin. We spoke about it the other day. They bring a chatas because this is the procedure, how you get out of your tumah, how you finish up the kapara, not the kapara, but the whole procedure. You bring this, you bring that, a whole bunch of karbanas, shlamim, that. So if you told the kohen that you're bringing a chatas chelev for chelev, and he switches it to mitzayra, which is a completely, it's a chatas, but it's for a gift, it's not for a kapara, pasul. It's just like switching a chatas to shlamim. Hani oilos ninu. The Gemara doesn't mean it's an oila. The Gemara means that it's like an oila. It's a chatas, it's like an oila, it's like a gift. Boy, Rava, so we have a shayla. Chatas chelev, remember this question, because Rava's son is going to say something that the Gemara is going to say. So what was your father's question? So chatas chelev sheshachta l'shem chatas the tumas mikdash v'kadosh of mahu. What are we talking about here? Shinui kodesh. We're changing the type of carbon. What's shinui bailam? We're changing, the kohen is changing the ownership. So he asks, what about the chatas that you bring if you go into the Beis HaMikdash when you're tamei? What about if the kohen switched from chelev to tumas mikdash v'kadosh? What's the question? Mi amrin kares kamaisa. They're both chatas, they're both kares. It's the same thing, so it's not a big deal. Oidilma ein kavua kamaisa. When you walk into the Beis HaMikdash, betuma, it depends how wealthy you are. There's a whole scale. If you're poor, if you're rich, you bring an animal. If you're poor, you bring birds. And if you're super poor, you bring soilas. You bring a mincha. So I don't know, maybe not. So he says teiku. Mi amrin kares kamaisa. Forget the teiku. Idilma ein kavua kamaisa. Oh, it does say teiku over here. It does say, it says teiku on the side. Hagoyz etziyunim teiku. Givaldik. So comes Rava's son and says, my father said that when a kohen messes up between chelev and dam, even the two most similar karbanas, they're both in the same pasuk. They both have the same kares. Very similar. One is for chelev, eating chelev. One is for eating dam. Pasul. No, not like we said before. It's kosher. Pasul. My taima. V'shachadei solachatos. L'shem moisa chatos has to be exact. The kohen has to be very precise. You bring it for a chelev. Don't mess up the dam. I don't understand how you could tell me such a thing in the name of your father. Boy, the Rava, heichi masni sula. So what's the pshat in Rava's question? What happens if he mixes up between a chelev karban chatos to a mikdash v'kadosh of tumas mikdash v'kadosh of chatos? Of course, in that case, it's no good. Even dam and chelev, you said, is no good. So certainly, mikdash v'kadosh is no good. Omar Le, you messed up. He says, no, you don't understand my father. You're talking about shinui kodesh, going from one type of carbon to another type of carbon. No. My father's question was in shinui bailam. Same thing, but in shinui bailam. If the kohen messes up and says that this chatos should be, instead of somebody, Reuven, who ate chelev, it's for Shimon, who ate blood, it's two different people now. And or some Shimon did avodah zarah. Pasul. That's pasul. And if he says that he's changing ownership for somebody that's chayiv a chatas and a mitzayra, then it's kosher. then it's kosher. Why? Because it's something completely different. It's like a oila. So therefore, Rav asked the question by Rav. What happens if I change from a chatas chaylev and Ruvain and I go to Shimon who's chayav a chatas for going to Beis Hamikdash b'tumah? So is it similar to it? And in switching bailim would be a problem, or is it dissimilar? It's not similar to it, and therefore it's okay. Teiko Itmar Shachta Lishma Lizrik Dama Shaloi Lishma. The guy is in the process of doing what? Rabbi said, what is he doing? Shchita. He's thinking in his brain, Zrika. Shaloi Lishma. Again, he's doing Shchita, but in his brain, he's thinking about Zrika Shaloi Lishma. That he's going to mess up the Zrika. In a Shinui Kodesh. In other words, when he does the Zrika, it's a lot of information, when he's thinking to himself, when I do the Zrika, you see that it says Ayla over there? Ayla? Oh, Givaldik. If you zoom in over here, now he's doing the Zrika for a Shlamim. Now he's doing Shchita of an Ayla. He's thinking, I'm going to do Zrika l'sheim shlamim with this blood. So we're asking like this: Shachta l'shma, l'zrik dama shaloi l'shma. He shechted the animal with the intent to throw the blood that I showed you here, this one right here on thing. This is similar, but not really, to pigul, because pigul also in middle shchita he's thinking about when he's going to throw the blood. What day he's going to throw the blood. Over here he's thinking, I'm going to throw the blood without the right intent, without the right carbon. We have a machloikis. Rabbi Yochanan Psula, why is it possible? I could think from one avoida from shchita, I'm in middle shchita thinking about zrika. And the reason is, because I learned it from something called pigul, which is a big problem. I cannot go, I can't ruin, this case, I'm in the middle of Shechita, I can't think about Zrika Shaloi L'Shma. Why? Because Lo Yafinu Machshavas Pigul. Pigul's Pigul, that's a Isser Kares in the Beis Hamikdash. This is something else. This is changing from one carbon to another. It's different. Daf Yomi Amud Aleph. If somebody shechs an animal, very similar to what we're talking about, he shechs an animal to sprinkle his blood for Avodah Zarah. And he's shechting now, but he's thinking about doing Avodah Zarah with it later. So Avodah Zarah, says Rabbi Yochanan, I could go, I'm doing shechita now, I can ruin it with the machshava of doing zrika for Avodah Zarah. Why? I learn Avodah Zarah from the karbanos. Chutz is Avodah Zarah, pnim is the karbanos inside the Beis Hamikdash. Rish Lakish Amar Muteres, such a thing is not a problem. Why? I cannot go from shechita to Avodah Zarah. I don't learn Avodah Zarah from shechita inside. Utzricha, you have to stick the word in utzricha here. Diashmina baha. If I don't say about Avodah Zarah, baha mar Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish says, because it's so different, shechita and Avodah Zarah, karbanos and Avodah Zarah is different, so that's why it's kosher. But when you do a shinui kodesh, like in our case, they're both inside the Beis Hamikdash, you're just thinking about, I'm going to do the zrika later on for another carbon. Maybe I'll say that's also because they're both in the Beis Hamikdash. And if it just says the one in the Beis Hamikdash, that's Rabbi Yochanan says that it's also by but when he thinks about Avodah Zarah, maybe he'll be moeded to Rabbi Shlokish that it's mutter, because one is inside the Beis Hamikdash, one is outside. I have a right to Rabbi Yochanan, a right to Rabbi Shlokish. Rabbi Yochanan. That what? If I'm thinking in my mind that I'm going to do, I'm in middle of shechita, I'm thinking this case, let me just show it to you so there's no confusion here. In middle of shechita, he's thinking that he's going to do zrika shaloi l'shma. Rabbi Yochanan says it's aser. By pigul. Listen to this. Thinking about this. If a person is shechting A person is shechting an animal right now, and he says, I'm going to shech this in 3 days from now. Does it ruin anything? No, because he's shechting right now. I can't make up something that's not existing. I'm shechting now. How can I think I'm going to shech in 3 days when I'm shechting now? So Mela Kosher. But by Pigul, if I shecht it now thinking I'm going to do Zrika tomorrow, it's possible. So in our case, our whole Masechta that's talking about a person does shchita and thinks that he's shechting a shlamim and he thinks that it's a toida, whatever it is, he ruins it. Apostle, so then take our case, this case on the screen, when he's shechting and he's thinking about Zrika Shaloi L'Shema, and it didn't she apostle. Again, our Masechta is worse off than Shechita, like than Pigul, the Gemara says. Why? Because when I'm shechting L'Shem Pigul, I'm going to do Lachar Zman, it's kosher, because it's Mamash Yishtong Shtusim. But when I shecht for another carbon, it's possible. So certainly if I shecht and think about Zrika for another carbon, it should also be possible. There's no connection. Chutz Zman is kares. What do you bring me a raya from there? So all the Gemara does right now is, instead of saying the same thing again, but instead of talking about pigul, which is kares, we're going to do chutz kaimai, which is not kares, and then you don't have that answer shekain kares. If a guy, as he's shechting, he's saying, I am going to shech this in Bet Shemesh, but he happens to be in the base Mikdash when he's shechting, so he's talking shtusim, and therefore kosher, shu kosher. Yet, at the same time, if he thought about doing zrika outside in Bet Shemesh, it would be possible, not kares, but that's chutzim koimei, that's possible. Makim shemamar. Hareni shochet shaloi l'shmoi shu pasul. Shchot al manas lizrik dom shaloi l'shmoi. And it did she a pasul. The same kind of they said before. So certainly, the case of the first Mishnah in our Masechta, where a person shechts in order to lizrik dom shaloi l'shmoi. He's shechting right now. He's going to do a zrika without our case. Certainly, it should be pasul. Why? Because if I shecht in the first Mishnah in our Masechta, if I shecht for a shlamim, I think that it's a taida. It's not good. So certainly, if I shecht with the zrika, that's not good. It certainly shouldn't be good. What's the connection? Chutzim koimai is, you can't bring a raya from chutzim koimai. We spoke about chutzim zmanai, chutzim koimai. Yeah, these two things. Let me show you on the chart. Everything's good. Here, chutzim koimai, the one on the left. I'm thinking that I'm going to eat it outside. That's in every single carbon in the world. You have a problem with chutzim koimai. But our mission says there's only 2 karbanos. You can really mess it up completely, and that's a chatas and a pesach. Comes Rav Ashi with his big kavachomer. Hello, Rav Ashi. If the kohen says I'm not checking for Reuven, I'm checking for Shimon, it's kosher. Why is it kosher, Rabbi Isai? Because there's no zrika involved in the shini bailim, and it's melis kosher. Lizroik damoy l'shem ploni pasal. What's the classic case of shini bailim? When the kohen sticks in a machshava of zrika, instead of Reuven, it should be for Shimon. My zrika is going to be for Shimon, so that makes it possible. So take the case, the classic case of our Mishnah, where there's a shini kodesh. He says that it's not going to be a shlamim. It's not going to be a chatas. It's going to be a shlamim. What happens? It's possible. And it did she apostle. So certainly, if you think about zrika, loy l'shma, not for that type of carbon. You went from a chatas to a shlamim in the zrika. You thought, in this case, right over here, as you're shechting, you're thinking about the zrika, instead of going to be oila, it's going to be something else. So certainly it should ruin it. That's Rav Ashi. I'm not even going to repeat it again. I'm just going to say the kavachomer Rav Ashi. Rabbi Eli, let's say Rish Lakish. And what did Rabbi Eli bring as a raya to Rish Lakish? That he says that if you do this case right over here on the screen, you go from shchita and you think to yourself during shchita that the zrika is going to be shaloi shema, it's kosher. Like timer bezrika. Oh, so this is a little tricky. I mean, the wording, it just doesn't tell us anything. It doesn't give a lot of information. But we all remember this. You remember where we brought 3 psukim to say that Shechita, Kabbalah, and Zrika, there's a mitzvah to do it l'shma, and if you and there's another pasuk that says it's ma'akev, it's mamish, you have to do it. Fine, that's b'shini kodesh. So the Gemara now says very simple: get rid of the Zrika. Why do I need a pasuk by Zrika? Just tell me 2 psukim, Shechita and Kabbalah, and I'll learn Zrika from those 2 psukim. You see what the Gemara says here? Le'toimer b'Zrika, don't give me one of those 3 psukim. In Zrika, v'teisi mikavachoimer b'menaya, m'shchita v'Kabbalah. From there's 2 psukim, one in Shechita, one in Kabbalah. Now, what am I going to learn? Here, says Rashi. U'mashchita shekshera b'zar psula b'shlei l'shma. Shechita that's kosher by Yisrael, but if you have the wrong intent, it ruins it. Zrika le'kolchkein. So certainly Zrika. Why do I need a pasuk by Zrika? If Shaloi Lishma ruins it by Shechita, certainly it will ruin it by Zrika. Now, Kiparchas Mal Shechita Shekem Piseles Shaloi Lishem. There's one thing that ruins it if you think about an old man who can't chew. Remember the case of an old man who can't chew Korban Pesach? Only during Shechita, not during Zrika. So you can say, oh, Shechita is more chomer. So that I'm going to say, Kabbalah Teichiach. Kabbalah doesn't ruin it by old man, yet you need Lishma. So in other words, with Shechita and Kabbalah, I can learn Zrika. Fine. So then why did the Torah give you another pasuk by Zrika? You cannot think about Avodah Avodah. The obvious question is, maybe the Torah said, you do think about Avodah Avodah. Where's the no? I hear the pasuk comes to tell us a chiddush about Avodah Avodah. But that it's good or not good? Who told you that it's not good? Maybe it is good. Great, you learn from a pasuk the idea of thinking thoughts while you're doing shechita about zrika, but it doesn't say anywhere in the pasuk that's no good. Says the Gemara, no. Don't say any pasuk at all. Don't say a pasuk by zrika. That's the Gavachomer we just said about from Ravashi. So what is Rabbi Yochanan going to say? Shechita and Kabbalah must be done in the northern part of the Beis Hamikdash. Even the chatois that come on Yom Kippur and everything that we learned in Harius, you need to do Shechita. You need to do Kabbalah, but you don't need to do Zrika. Zrika not. So I get rid of that Kabbalah. But right now we're talking about Shlomim. It says Rashi, the Shlomim ksiva machshava shel Shmoi, and by Shlomim we know the famous Kokeli song, the whole thing that you have to have the Shema, that if you don't do the Shema it's possible. So therefore, in Shlomim you can learn you don't need the pasuk by Zrika, and you can't answer all these things because we're talking about Shlomim now. We're not talking about Chatis Afnimiyas. Itmar. New Sugya. Shchata l'shma, lizruk dama shaloi l'shma. A person shechted, it's not the new sugi, it's the same thing that we had until now. This case, but just different Amoraim. Here we go. Rav Nachman Rav Sula, Rabbi Rikshera, V'hadavi Rabbi L'gavi Rav Nachman. At the end, Rabbi said, I agreed to you, Rav Nachman, that it's possible, because of the Ravashi, because of the Ravashi. Rabbi Lezer Oimer, Afa Hasham. What does it say in the Mishnah? Not just the 2 korbanos of Korban Pesach and Chatas that we mess up the Lishma, toss them, but there's a third one called the Asham. Tanya Omer V'lezer, Chatas Ba'al Chet, V'asham Ba'al Chet. And the logic is, because a Chatas, what's a Chatas? It comes to forgive and be mechaper for a sin. V'asham Ba'al Chet, and so does Asham. Ma'chatas Shaloi Lishma Psula, Af Asham Shaloi Lishmoi Pasul. So too, the Asham should be Pasul. It's like a Chatas. Beautiful Mizbeach. There's a red line, it's called Chut HaSikra on the Mizbeach. Every single carbon in the world, you spray the blood below the red line. There's only 1.5 that you do above. The Chatas, you do above the red line, and a bird. The oil bird goes above the red line. So he says, why are you comparing a asham to a chatas? Asham has a special chumrah. It's a special animal. You have to throw the blood above the red line. So don't compare your asham. Yeah, it comes for a sin, but the different sins. What do you say? The sins are for what? What's asham? You do b'mezid. Mezid. Gneva is mezid. Mila. Omeloi Rebbe Eliezer Pesach Yichiach. Korban Pesach can teach you that what? Shedami Lamata, the blood goes like all other karbanos below the red line. Ushchatish Lelishmoy Puzzle, yet is still yishachted without the right intent. It's puzzle. So too Asham goes below the red line, puzzle. But a Pesach has one day, actually 6 hours of the whole year, from after Chatzos until nighttime. So it has more chumrah. He says Chatas will prove it. That what? It doesn't have a set time. And what? I'm going around in a circle because a Chatas is above the red line. But Pesach is below the red line. But as is Makavua. But a Chatas is never going when you go around in a circle. So Rebbe Eliezer gives up and he says, okay, let me go a different direction. Chatas nemar he b'shchita. He who lishma ksheira shloy lishma psula. It's dafka Chatas that you need intent. Other karbanos not. It also says the same word by Chatas. But there's a lot of extra words here we're going to see in a second, repeating these exact words over. You know what? Asham also has who, so the three of them have who. This teaches us you have to have the right intent. Those three, says Rebbe Eliezer. Now we're just repeating the words. What's his point? We had these psukim. I'll remind you again. Here it says who, so it says who by Pesach. But where does it say Asham? After you bring the stuff, when you bring the Aktara, it's past the Shechita, past the Kabbalah. It's all the way at the end, bringing the stuff up. It's already too late by then. Putting the meat on top, the steaks on top of the mizbeach. And if you don't do it, it's still kosher. In other words, it's already past the essential four avodas of shchita kabbalah ilachin zrika. So now he comes in here and he brings a massive bombshell, and we're going to be using this a lot. But it says there's a hekesh. Kachatos kosham. Whatever a chatos has, Asham has. Just like a chatos, you have to have the right intent, and if you don't, you could toss the animal out. So to an Asham. Now we're just going back to that Memetzinu, the top of the page, where we said, Chizrani Chalila, top of the Amud. Chizrani Chalila, I'm going in a circle. Then what? I want to learn Asham from a Chatas. I said, no, Chatas is very different. Chatas, the blood is above the red line. So he said, yeah, but Pesach is not above the red line. Above Pesach is something special, it's 6 hours. Oh, but Chatas doesn't. You go around in a big circle. Let's see what he did here. Here. Remember in the beginning of Shir, I showed you the behind the scenes. Here, Chatos, I want to learn Asham from Chatos. But the problem is, Chatos, the blood is above the red line. So it kicks Asham out of there. Oh, but Pesach, macaroons, the matzah, the whole thing. Oh, so now I can learn Asham from, I guess, Pesach. But it's Manakavua, kick it out of there. But now we'll learn from both of them together. It's Hadashava that they're eaten, you get to eat them. Says Rashi, you get to eat them. And without Lishma, you don't have the right intent, it's possible. So too in Asham. So the Gemara says no, but the two of them have a chorus. Now let's see it inside. Learn from the two of them. You're right, this one has a plus, this one has a plus. But the two of them together have one thing in common. What do they have in common? That they're eaten, so is an Asham, part of it is eaten, and without Lishma is possible. Says Gemara, did I skip anything? Because at the bottom line, there's a chorus. Chatos, it comes from a chorus. Pesach, if you don't do it, you get chorus. What's the difference about Chatos? Chatos is something special. The blood goes above the red line. That the Chatos, sometimes on Yom Kippur, the Chatos of Yom Kippur, the blood goes lifnai v'lifnim. We're not talking about the inner, the one time a year in the Chatos of Yom Kippur. We're talking about regular Chatos. She says so, but Rabbi Shua could have answered Shemnichnas Dama lifnim psula. So now we're going to see a number of times. We don't have to, but there's a possible. Chatos sheyuva midama. So if you bring the blood into the heichal, it ruins the Chatos. toss the chatos. So why is that not a pircha? You can't learn asham from a chatos because if you bring the blood of a asham into the heichal, it doesn't do anything. If you bring the chatos, it does. Says Gemara, Isla Rebelezer Afa Asham. It's not true. Even if you bring Asham into the Heichal, it ruins it also. So that's not a big milo for a Chatas. So why isn't the answer when she came Mechaperes the Chayav Krisus? Chatas comes to be Mechaper for Karas. Says Gemara, Mechatas Shmiyas Kol. I'm bringing you, we're talking about a different Chatas that doesn't have Karas. If you know testimony, you don't testify, you have to bring a Chatas, and over there's no Karas. Shekein Tu'uno. Arba matonois. Oh, you got to go like this. Look at this. You have to do one here, one here, one here, and one here. The other karbanas you could just do right on this corner, shtaim in arba, and you do right over here, shtaim shem arba. It's not four corners. It's four walls, but not four corners. The chatos, you have to use your finger and apply the blood. Hoika Karen. Now we're going up here. There's a little ramp over here. It's very scary. It's not very wide, but it's enough for a person to stand on, right over here. Over here. And he stands over here, and he applies the blood to these corners. See the corners? Oh, now you can see them. 1, 2, 3, 4. The horns. The Karen is not corner, horns. Also, when you apply the blood, you go smear it down the wall. Like you go like this, all the way down. Last time in Okat. He only said one thing, that the blood goes above the red line. He could have used the other. You're right, there's other things that Chatas has that we don't have. Omar Mar. Omar Le Yeshua. Loi imamarta. What did Rabbi Yeshua say? That the blood of it, you can't learn Asham from a Chatas because the Chatas blood goes above the red line. He should learn from a Chatas. The blood of Asham also goes above. You're right, it doesn't go above, but he should learn from a Chatas, it goes above. Once you're learning something, you're learning Asham from a Chatas, that you need to have the right intent. Learn also the blood goes above. You can't say that. Why? Because you learn from Oila. When a person brings a gift, the entire animal goes on top of the mizbeach. Yet the blood goes below the red line. So Asham that's not as chomer, you can eat from it. Certainly the blood should go below the red line. So he says, but Oila doesn't come to forgive. Proved from the bird, the Chatas bird. That is mechaper. And where do you put the blood of the Chatas bird? Below the red line. Only the Oila bird goes above the red line. When it comes to the birds in the Beis Hamikdash, the kohen grabs it a certain way. You can see in this picture, he's grabbing the wings between his two fingers. He grabs the wings, and with his thumb, he has a nail, and he breaks the back of the neck. Now, if you were to do that outside the Beis Hamikdash, that bird will become a nevela. In the Beis Hamikdash, that's the only way to do it. But that's not zevach. That's not a shechita. That's something else. So mela, don't bring a raya from a bird. Oila tichiach. The oil will prove it that it is a zevach. I think he might have done one, but at the end of the day, the Gemara says elam kitzpa. Oil on a bird, there's no. If you get it for free, you buy it for $1, it's okay. But a asham, you have to pay a minimum price. And Memela, you can't learn a asham from them. I want to learn that Asham, you don't learn from Chaz, you should learn from them. You have to pay at least 2 shekel for it. Only the chatos you bring the blood above. There's a special example. Typical, right, Ariel? Typical Zevachim. After everything, we come up with the pasuk. So now the Gemara says, let's do something interesting. You have this oisah that's mimai, that says no. Only it does lishma. So let's use that and say, oisah lishma kshera, shalei lishma psula, hoshar zvachim, bein lishman, bein shalei lishman, ksherim. So Mela, I'm asking Rabbi Eliezer, why do you, Rabbi Eliezer, say that a asham, if you don't have the right intent, you have shaloi l'shma, it's possible, you should learn from here. No, only a chatos is possible shaloi l'shma, but asham is kosher. Ahoy solav dafka, the shir Pesach. At Pesach, at the end of the day, everybody agrees that there's two korbanos, that if you have shaloi l'shma, you toss it. One of them is the chatos that we're talking about, but also the Pesach. So maybe Pesach, you toss, so toss also the asham. Hanami lav dafka, the shir l'saif. So the Gemara says, but wait a minute. But you just, with the same logic, you'll say that you also left out the oil sa'if. So a bird, don't bring any right from a bird. A bird is not a shchita. Above and below the red line, there's two different places. Right? The types of karbanos you put below the red, above. Only the oila of the oif goes above the red line. So where's this chatas that we're talking about? It goes above the red line. It's not above the red line. It's on the horns. It's different. And Mamela, I can't learn asham from it. It's on the horn itself. Rabbi Isaiah, gewaldike year.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.